James Grande, welcome into the Better Baseball MLB DFS Playbook live show here, breaking down Wednesday's 6-game main slate. James, you were the guy on the playbook today. You did a little bit of an early slate core play article here for the morning slate, which obviously if you played the Angels, you're doing pretty well in. But we got 6 games here on the main, my man.
Yeah, 6 games if you're talking DraftKings. They did add a 7th game over on FanDuel. They're including the 6:40 Eastern Standard Time game between the San Diego Padres and the Miami Marlins. So if you're playing on FanDuel, we won't forget about you. We'll mention the 3 guys that are relevant in that game, Blake Snell versus Braxton Garrett. But yeah, DraftKings going with 6 games per usual. They don't really dabble in that early window. They usually just stick to the 7 p.m. or later window, and I like that better than having to make decisions 20 minutes earlier than I would if I was playing on FanDuel. So, yeah, interesting 6-game slate. Pretty good pitcher, and then it falls off pretty quickly. There's some very interesting matchups because I feel like some of the pitching spots, and we'll get into it, are like could go literally one way or the other. One you're going to be in attendance for, another one is kicking off very late tonight. So we'll see. Interesting slate, some pretty high game totals as well. Not something that we've seen, especially without cores on the slate. So definitely an interesting slate for 6 games on
perfect weather tonight too. Don't really have to worry about anything impacting that. James, you said high game totals. Why don't you rattle off a few of them? What should we be looking at today?
Yeah, 9.5 in Milwaukee, Toronto, pretty much across the board. The over is the favorite in that. Even FanDuel Sportsbook has it at 10. 10 runs implied open at Cincinnati, Boston. That's now been bet up to 10.5, and it's even money. So FanDuel Sportsbook, slight lean to the over 10.5 runs tonight. There's 10 implied runs in Colorado, Arizona as well. So we have 3 game totals with 9.5. Some places 10, and none of them are Coors Field. We have obviously good ballparks like in Toronto, Fenway. Summer in Fenway is going to be fun.
70 degrees all night. It's going to be great. So.
And Arizona has been a good place to hit this year. So, some very solid game environments. 7.5 in the Yankees Seattle is very interesting to me. I mean, Clark Schmidt versus George Kirby, not exactly your, barn burner pitching matchup.
Here, so.
Yeah. So 7.5 might be a little on the low side, in my opinion. And Kirby's a favorite in that game. I actually do like the other side's pitching, and we'll get into that on why. But Clark Schmidt plus 120 in that. Tommy Henry and the Arizona Diamondbacks, anywhere from minus 155 to minus 170, depending on what sports book you're looking at. Minus 175 for Hunter Brown and the Houston Astros, despite no Jose Altuve in the lineup tonight against our second favorite team, the Minnesota Twins, who I'm sure will score 25 runs tonight because, Hunter Brown's pitching, and we stacked the Twins all, yesterday, and that's just how the Twins treat us, even though we treat them nothing but love, right? Like, we give the Twins all this love, and they give us nothing back, John. James Paxton and your Boston Red Sox open minus 180, and I find this a little interesting, minus 155 on the money line over on DraftKings Sportsbook. A lot of people clearly on the Cincinnati Reds, and that the Reds are decent against left-handed pitching this year. And Alek Manoah minus 165, and I can't believe that's even a thing. And I cannot believe they're disrespecting.
I don't think it's Alek Manoah that's minus 165. I think it's the Blue Jays that are 165.
Yes, well, yeah, the Blue Jays minus 165.
I promise you, Alek Manoah is not expected to pitch well today. Mark Pitt's already in the chat. Can Manoah throw professional baseballs today? No, I don't think so. I think we're unsure. We're unsure that he knows how to be a professional baseball player at this point this season. So, question the Manoah odds there for sure, I think. But the Blue Jays more likely going to hang some runs up, I would assume. We thought last time.
Don't you dare disrespect Julio Teheran's
We thought last time that we could stack against Julio Teheran, and we were dead wrong. So let's just jump into it. Let's get into the pitching breakdown here. Again, there's only 6 games on the main slate for DraftKings, 7 on FanDuel. As you mentioned, it's Blake Snell and Braxton Miller, a pair of lefties over on FanDuel there. So if you want to just give a quick outlook, James, on the FanDuel pitches before we move to the DraftKings slate.
Yeah, I mean, they're both relatively decent. I would say Garrett is obviously more risky. San Diego's been better against left-handed pitching than they have against right-handed pitching this year. Miami doesn't really profile all that well against any split this year. So I'm perfectly fine getting to Snell. I think Snell has some serious upside if he can navigate Jorge Soler and Brian De La Cruz pretty much at the top of their lineup. The Marlins, I don't know if you saw this, leading off Brian De La Cruz. That is now like, I can't say I blame them. I'm sure they were tired of, John Birdie and Gene Segura like constantly not getting on base. So I like Blake Snell a little bit in tournaments. Braxton Garrett, like I'm okay with if you just want to fade that and move on. 180 ISO for the Padres, and we saw Braxton Garrett is prone to blowups. Has a 10 earned run start on his ledger this year. So Blake Snell, pretty good price, $9,000 on FanDuel. That's that gets you $3,250 a play over there. Braxton Garrett, 8,600. I think although he's pitched pretty well outside of really one start this year, and it was that, and I said 10, it was 11 earned runs. Shout out to the Atlanta Braves hitting lefties. I'm probably out on Braxton Garrett.
Yeah, I'm with you there. All right, moving on over to DraftKings here and the rest of the main slate that both are covering. Hunter Brown's your top priced pitcher today, coming off of a great outing against Oakland, as we sort of expected that he would. 10 strikeouts in that game, 7 innings. Again, he's one of the top pitching prospects, or was one of the top pitching prospects in baseball coming into this season here. He's at home. He gets Minnesota. You and I are, for better or for worse, huge Minnesota Twins fans. We like the potential the lineup has. Doesn't usually come back and like us back. But today on such a small slate, you almost have to throw Hunter Brown at least in a lineup or two. If you're playing a couple of lineups, probably behooves you to stack against him in one of them in case Minnesota does fulfill that prophecy of finally coming through for us when we have them featured.
Yeah, so I look at it like this. I won't fully dive into like the full stack against him because he's been a very tough cookie to crack. Like even in his bad starts, he's only allowed 4 home runs in 10 outings this year. Like he's a guy who the most fly ball outs in a singular start this year is 5. Mm-hmm. Nobody puts the ball in the air on this guy. And that's kind of why the home runs. And honestly, maybe there is something to be said that all 4 home runs he's allowed have been in the last 4 starts. And that's something to hang your hat on. But like, I don't love the full stack. I could get to guys in Minnesota, Buxton, Kirilloff, Royce Lewis, primarily like as one-offs or mini stacks. But Hunter Brown is definitely the focus of someone we want to use. Houston's offense, rather, has been very good of late. I know they're missing Altuve tonight, but they really haven't skipped a beat.
I mean, Dubon was unbelievable.
Yeah, and he's back to leading off tonight. So I like the win equity for Hunter Brown. What we have to love the most is the strikeouts of late. He had his career high 10, and I understand that back-to-back games against Oakland does that for pitchers. John, Minnesota, our beloved Twins, now are tied with Oakland for the highest strikeout rate against right-handed pitchers.
He's faced Minnesota already this year too, by the way. His second start of the season, 7 shutout, 7 strikeouts. So
it is a slightly different team, I'd say. Sure. Like we've added Kirilloff, we've added Royce Lewis. I would say, better at this point, but they're still striking out a boatload. And if Brown's coming in 8, 9, 10 strikeouts his last 3 starts, the trend should continue here. Hunter Brown.
You think 40 to 60% tonight?
He's gonna be really popular. I'll get you an official number in a second, but he's gonna be especially when you look at the rest of this top tier in general. Kirby gets a Yankees offense that's scorching. And Aaron Nola
Seattle's a favorite tonight, and this is
Seattle is
a 7.5 game total. People might be playing Kirby just based off that information.
Let us take a look. The most popular is Hunter Brown by he's 40 currently, over 40 projected. The only one. Kirby is second at 32%. Okay. Aaron Nola, who is the third highest priced pitcher on the DraftKings slate, is about 27%, which is really difficult. And I was like all in on the Nola versus Braves thing because it was another bad pitching slate. Yeah. The Braves struck out a lot against right-handed pitching, and they did strike out a lot. He got bit by 2 Austin Riley 3 home runs. Yeah. The Mets do not strike out at all. Aaron Nola has the lowest strikeout rate of his career. And I know the strikeouts have come around, 17 in his last 2 starts, and that's been great. But if the Mets aren't striking out, and Aaron Nola is also coming in with the lowest strikeout rate, I just don't love getting to him at 9,100. I could, I guess, see a scenario like it's a good pitching environment in Citi Field.
This feels like a name value play for a lot of people too, because they're just looking at the slate. They're like, after the top 3 guys, it gets dark, right? You're really worried here. James Paxton's $8,500. You mentioned that Gat line is getting bet up to 10.5 now, and that the Reds are favorites in that game. You said as well.
No. Paxton's a big favorite. Paxton's a big favorite.
Okay. Well, I'm dubious of that. I've been anti-Paxton since he was brought up. He started off really good in 2 starts, and I kind of ate my words, obviously. Again, the Angels came around and just smoked him. Listen, you did the playbook today, but if you look at this lefty splits for a lot of these guys in the Reds lineup tonight, they hammer left-handed pitching. So I would be hopeful almost that people are playing Paxton, because I'm going the other way in that game.
So I think this was the number 1 most challenging play I've had on today's playbook, because he was at the top when I alluded to there is a scenario where James Paxton, someone is really good or really bad. He was exactly who I was talking about. His numbers peripherally, John, and you were a little dubious, and that's your fault, not mine. Of James Paxton being bad. He was bad last start. Let's be fair. The peripheral numbers for James Paxton actually suggest he's pitched even better than he's shown, and that could be part of why he struggled last start. Over 5 ERA, over 5 expected, but 374 SIERA, 391 xFIP. We are right on par with the strikeout rate that he has had pretty much throughout his whole career when he's been healthy, which has been the number 1 issue with James Paxton throughout his whole career. It's just been health related. That's first probably through 50 of the issues. My issue with Paxton this year is the fly ball rate and the hard hit rate. But you don't Cincinnati is a good offense against lefties, and I'm not saying they're not. Their best 2 power hitters, though, are lefties, and they don't hit lefties well. Spencer Steer is a good hitter against lefties. He is not a power hitter. He has been a good guy in terms of power this year. Jonathan India is he's their best player, but he's not a power hitter. He has 5 home runs on the year.
His numbers against lefties actually aren't that great this year either. He's been much better against righties. But Nick Senzel murders left-handed pitching. Kevin Newman, who's leading off for them, hammering left-handed pitching. Plus, you're also not taking into the fact that these are righties in Fenway Park. That wall is 340 feet to the left. I mean, I'm just saying, and Paxton's pitching into that power, that swing. So I don't know. Listen, I hear you. I get it. 80% fly ball rate, 22% home run to fly ball rate, and a ballpark that is prone for right-handed power. Steer doesn't have to be
50% fly ball.
Sure. Steer doesn't have to be a prolific power hitter to hit it out the 20% ground ball rate, then we'll say 50% fly ball rate.
I think that there's there's pretty much here's what's gonna happen.
If he doesn't strike out 10, he's getting hammered tonight.
Me and you are, one of us is completely right and one of us is completely wrong, and there is not a chance that we can where it's like Paxton goes 6 innings, 3 runs, 10 strikeouts, and it's like Steer, Senzel, and India home runs. It's like Paxton strikes out 10 through 6 and like shuts the door down, or he gets through an inning and a third and gives up 5 home runs and 7 earned. And this is like there's 17 runs scored in this game. So I like Paxton in tournaments. He's about the 6th highest rostered pitcher on the slate. But I'm also just taking a shot on him.
Yeah, I got 5 lineups built right now. I'm playing the 420 max. We'll see how many I finish out today. I have 1 Paxton just as a hedge against your
red shares. Yeah.
Listen, I was kind of in agreement with you. I'm like, all right, Paxton, he's at home, good strikeout rate. And then I just started looking at the lefty splits for a lot of these guys.
They're good.
Fairchild, Newman, Barea, like all those, they just hit lefties. So India really, and outside of like Fraley and Friedel, the lefty guys they have in their lineup are the only 2 that aren't hitting left-handed pitching this year. So we'll see. Big strikeout guy Paxton, he's proven to be that. So if he misses bats tonight, it could be lights out for Cincy. Louis Varland against Houston is at 83. Luke Weaver's on the other side of that matchup at 79. And then Clark Schmidt, you alluded to, you kind of like Schmidt here tonight at $7,700.
Yeah, and I think that we're starting to see a little bit better version of Clark Schmidt, other than the Tampa Bay start, which I think, chalk that up against pretty much every team that Tampa Bay faces is a threat, and a Texas start. He's been very good. He has a very solid strikeout rate, and the thing that we've ad nauseum talked about Clark Schmidt this year is the lefty split and how terrible he's been against lefties. But then you look at the Seattle lineup, right? They'll throw J.P. Crawford, Jared Kelenic, Cal Raleigh, Taylor Trammell. Those are the 4 lefties you'll likely see from Seattle. Only one of those guys has a WOBA 2. I'll give Kelenic 340. WOBA over 320 this year. Like, Cal Raleigh is a power bat, and that's scary.
Yeah.
But, like, their power is just all from the right side, and righties have done nothing against Clark Schmidt. 296 WOBA, 159 ISO allowed. The xFIP kind of suggests that Clark Schmidt's been a little unlucky. 418 xFIP. He has a 25% K rate, as I mentioned. Good ballpark, good game total. And the Yankees offense is rolling right now, like, to just bolster his chances at a win. I know he's only 2-5 this year, but he hasn't pitched well in a lot of spots. So, coming into this game, pitching a little better, 5 innings in less than 2 runs in 3 of his last 4 starts. 2 of those have ended in wins. And I know Baltimore, Cincinnati, Oakland are those teams, but like, Baltimore's offense is good, and he stymied them to 1 run. Right. So I do like Clark Schmidt in Seattle tonight quite a bit. He would probably be my favorite mid-tier play. Varland is really scary against Houston because it was like righty dominant splits where he's been terrible against them, but now lefties are hitting him too. I don't like to see the 2 home runs. Houston's offense starting to roll. Weaver, forget it. Right. I mean, I know he's coming off like a really good start, but everything suggests he is just in for a drastic regression here, and he has a 5.45 ERA to begin with.
Red Sox lineup a little ugly today. Ref Tighter.
It is bad. It is bad.
No Casas today, but I mean, Boston generally. I mean, they almost came back and won that game last night. Casas strikes out to end it, but Red Sox offense at home far better than it is on the road. So I agree with you there. Julio Teheran, again, I like Toronto tonight again because I don't think what we saw out of Teheran is repeatable, but maybe.
No.
Listen, we talk about the Giants and how great they are against righties, but they strike out a lot. You limited the damage. You're only 4 hits allowed, had 5 strikeouts. So, but 7 fly ball outs.
Yeah.
That's not going to play, I don't think, here. No. A lot more power in the Toronto lineup than the San Francisco lineup. So, I don't. Small slate, take some shots, but I don't think I'm repeating the Toronto experience here.
No, I mean, the sub 2 ERA is great, but his xFIP was 3 runs higher than that. The 57% fly ball rate, as you alluded to, is now in Toronto against the Blue Jays. Like, no thanks. Yeah. We love Julio Teheran here. This is a Julio Teheran fan club, but unfortunately we're out today, buddy. I'm sorry. It's not going to be pretty. And to Mark's question here, Dinelson Lamet is being stretched out as a starter. Yeah. He threw 65 pitches or so in his last rehab start. I know they used him out of the bullpen exclusively to begin the year. But he is being stretched out in the minors, and that's a great sign for Arizona. I'll just say it now, they're my favorite stack of the day. This game total is great. The game environment is great, and Dinelson Lamet is not great. And if they're going to use him as a traditional starter, that is great news for all opposing teams. But like, this is where Colorado is right now. I mean, they're pitching Carl Kaufman every fifth day, and they're pitching like their best pitcher is who? Kyle Freeland every fifth day. Like,
hey, don't besmirch Kyle Freeland here.
Kyle Freeland got torched yesterday. I'll besmirch him.
He's only good at Coors, weirdly.
He is. Yeah, he is only good at Coors. So yeah, I mean, Lamet gave up 15 earned runs in 10 relief innings. He has as many walks as he has strikeouts out of the bullpen. Like, he has been terrible. All systems go. Cover of today's MLB DFS playbook at fantasyalarm.com is Corbin Carroll. I mean, all systems go for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
I got to ask you about Carlos Carrasco here, because his splits against lefties are pretty ridiculous this year. Righties are doing all of the damage against him. Left-handed hitters, though, 171 average, a 244 slug on the year. Now, again, I understand that he's only had a handful of starts on the year. He was hurt for a little bit there. But coming off a game against Chicago, 6 2/3 and earned 4 strikeouts. Any interest here at all, given the lineup that the Phillies kind of put out, where a lot of the guys that do damage for them are left-handed? Bryson Stott leading off, Bryce Harper's hitting third, Schwarber's hitting fifth tonight. Marsh, Cody Clemens at the end of their lineup. They're staggering Turner, Castellanos, and Real Muto. But for the first 7 hitters are lefties. Is there a path to Carrasco managing his way through a lineup here tonight of Philly?
Sure. And that's because the slate is bleak at pitcher, and because even the righties that Philly has, Trey Turner's been awful this year, and Nick Castellanos is better against lefties. So 2 of their right-handed bats that are the biggest threats to Carrasco, who can't get righties out, are not much of threats, which is weird to say about Trey Turner and Nick Castellanos, but that's kind of where we are this year. So sure.
Super small sample size as well, but the lefties that I mentioned that are in the lineup here tonight, we're looking at, Harper's 2 for 9. Marsh is 0 for 2, so that's a 2 for 11. Schwarber's 0 for 6, so that's 2 for 17. It's 2 for 19 are the lefties in the lineup tonight against Carrasco. Again, we hate BVP. We don't like to talk about it, but dominating lefties this year, and those lefties are not touching him so far in their limited sample sizes. So, just kind of throwing that out there. And then we've usually stacked against Tommy Henry this year. But Colorado is one of the worst teams in baseball against lefties, and it's a super small slate. Any Tommy Henry dart throw appeal?
Maybe in a scenario where you're playing multiple lineups. It's very low floor.
He was weirdly a good strikeout guy in the minors, but has not struck anybody out at the major league level.
Which is why, if the only saving grace for getting to Tommy Henry is that he's low owned tonight, but there's a reason why he's low owned, because there's not a ceiling, his ceiling was about what he gave us in the Philly start. That was probably the best it's going to get. And if you get that tonight, it's a W, 19 fantasy points, 5 2/3, 6 home runs in 6 starts this year. I don't know. Maybe because he's low owned.
Colorado, and you're just trying to be different. ISO versus lefties. They're 28th in WOBA. They rank 22nd in batting average, and they have the 4th highest strikeout rate against left-handed pitching.
I know. I just don't even know if they're going to strike out against Tommy Henry. I don't know if they can. I don't know if Tommy Henry can strike them.
Last 2 weeks, 0.93 ISO against left-handed pitching for Colorado.
Isn't it weird to you? Elias Diaz, historically great against lefties. Chris Bryant, Jurickson Profar has historically been better from the right side. Randall Grichuk continues to hit lefties well. He's probably like their only player that really hits left. But like Bretton Doyle, who's back in their lineup, he hits righties better from the right side. Like it's such a weird team. CJ Crone last year, we were like, guy suddenly can't hit lefties, and all he does is hit righties. Like, I know he's on the IL, but like, just a weird. This Colorado
only
team
one
is
lefty
so
in the
weird.
lineup tonight for Colorado, Ryan McMahon. But as I said, they just. I mean, of course, like those sample sizes, like they could just be facing just like stout lefties every game, and like
Right.
and Henry certainly isn't that. But on a slate like this, where you're just like, I need value. I need to find a way to get in some of these top bats. It's him and it's like Carrasco for me. And I'm just kind of closing my eyes and plugging into lineups here if I'm not trying to double spend somewhere. So
pretty much.
All right, let's move on over to catcher here. Talk to me. Elias Diaz is your top price catcher tonight at 4,900. Cal Raleigh against Schmidt at 48, but you're kind of in on Schmidt here. Real Muto in a good spot because we said righties are doing the damage against Carrasco. Then you have Stevenson, Contreras, kind of Moreno as your top tier catchers tonight.
Yeah, although I like Clark Schmidt, I'm perfectly fine if you want to get to lefties as well. Cal Raleigh has a lot of power, 211 ISO against right-handed pitchers on the year. Tyler Stevenson, 340 WOBA against left-handed pitchers in Fenway. Like, the wall is there, but that's a short way there. Alejandro Kirk, 2,900 if you're not a believer of Julio Teheran. And then anyone really in the Brewers lineup, Brewers and Twins. Those are the teams that we lose the money on the most, John. I'm gravitating towards like Carantini, and I like him a little more than I like William Contreras. I like that William Contreras homered in 2 straight games. I like that he's hitting 4th, like obviously more than Carantini. Like there's obviously more upside with Contreras, but you can save some dollars getting to Carantini. So yeah, that's it for me. Just like the very small catcher. I'm not like going out of my way to punt like a Thomas Nido or anything because he's terrible.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. All right, let's go on over to first base then here. We've had a couple of home run calls over on Twitter today. Pete Alonso is again included in some home run calls
every day. You people
every day Tilly homers, right? Or
every day Tilly homers.
For me, Vladdy was the top spend up here against Tehran at $5,100. And then I liked Rowdy Tellez against Manoah at 42.
Yep, those are my exact two. Exact two above 4K, and then it's like your boy Spencer Steer is firmly in play.
My home run call today, Spencer Steer.
Your home run, yep. Spencer Steer for sure, and then I like Pavin Smith. Probably leads off again with the righty, and I know he's been bad. Played him the other day. He homered, three-run bomb. And I just fully expect. I like the dual eligibility. I love the matchup. I'm not gonna say I like the matchup. I love the matchup. Lefties against Dinelson Lamet this year, 435 WOBA, 304 ISO, and then when you extend that sample, which obviously you want to do because the more data, the more concrete it is. 380 WOBA, 272 ISO against left-handed bats. So I like Pavin Smith. He's struggling right now, but the home run is last time he played and projects as their leadoff hitter once again. I don't think we have an official lineup out at this point. So I will be invested in some Pavin Smith in my Arizona stacks.
Yep, I'm with you there. You mentioned Steer. I think Turner, if you're playing Boston tonight, $3,600.
Sure.
You really only want to play Turner, Yoshida, Devers, basically, anyways.
Yeah, I know it stinks.
All right, second base then here. At your top is Jonathan India. Again, India's hitting righties way better than lefties. I don't find myself getting to India much in my red stacks, except for just like the one-off because I need some exposure. If I stack reds and he goes off and I don't have him, I'll be upset. But he feels too expensive at $5,600 given how he's played against lefties this year. Gleiber's hitting for a lot of power right now at $5,300. Ketel Marte, we generally like against lefties, but this could be a spot against Lamet tonight. How are you feeling about the top group of these second basemen, man?
I don't love it. I've just kind of found, I think this is a very good value tier today. At least, there's some good names here. I could get to Marte. I'd really be interested in playing anyone against Dinelson Lamet. Marte hasn't been terrible against lefties or righties this year. 191 ISO, 328 WOBA. Those are both fine numbers. Too high of a ground ball rate. I don't want a guy I'm paying $5K for just to hit ground balls all night. So I could get there because I'm so heavily invested in the top half of the Arizona lineup. Like, it just makes sense to connect your stack, right? If he's hitting second, which I presume it's Smith, Marte, Corbin Carroll, that's probably the top three of their lineup. Then it makes sense you would have interest in Marte. He'd probably be the one guy I'd have interest, honestly, above 4K. I don't really have much interest in the rest of the tier.
I'm kind of with you there. There's not a lot guys we've mentioned. Obviously, there Merrifield looks great. Dubon, Owen Miller, all of them are going to be pretty much in there for us. And then I mentioned Kevin Newman. He's $2,600. He's leading off, and we don't often think of Kevin Newman, as a overly productive player, right? But if you just look at this year alone, his splits against left-handed pitching have been pretty impressive there. 15 of 47 sample size, 319, 511 slug, 907 OPS. Both of his homers coming against left-handed pitching there. So again, just kind of a guy that's cheap, another Red that hits lefties this year.
I think it's been a few years for Kevin Newman in which he's just hit lefties, because dating back to his Pirate days, he was hitting lefties well. So I'm interested in Kevin Newman, especially if you're not playing James Paxton. I think that's
last year, to your point, last year, 361 average, 433 slug, 837 OPS. Not a power hitter, though. He only had 2 total home runs last year. Career high 12 in 2019, but already has 2 this year. Again, playing in a nice home ballpark will help you out there, but it could be a good spot for him here in Fenway as well. So any other second baseman for you?
No, I mean, you mentioned Owen Miller hitting second, Dubois leading off. I mean, if you're really in against Alek Manoah, Abraham Toro was a guy a couple of years ago that was very good for Seattle. He had a terrible year last year. They cut him. He didn't, I forget where else he went last year, but he didn't do well there either. Hasn't really also been great at AAA, right, but he has a little power, a little speed, multi-position eligible, hitting 6th tonight. Alek Manoah just can't get people out. Like Mark asked at the top, he can't throw professional baseballs. That was the comment from Mark. Can Manoah throw? No. And so that means Abraham Toro, who's borderline Major League Baseball player.
Well, that's the thing. You look at the Milwaukee lineup again, Tay, and you're just like, he really can't get out Toro, Terrain, Tarantini, and Weimer? Like, he can't just work his way through the bottom half of the lineup? Probably not. Honestly, the answer to that question is probably not. So, I think that, it's interesting there. And then Kevin Biggio at $2,100. I know we joke about him, but I always recommend him here. And hey, what do you know? His last 10 games, 375, 12.
He's been really good.
34, 750 OPS. Another 2 hits last night in the lineup here tonight. So don't let the overall stats fool you. Ride him while he's hot. $2,100 in there, and get your Toronto exposure. Third base here. Devers, Bregman, both options. Bregman's the hotter hitter at the moment. Devers is again one of those just like gross slumps that he finds himself in.
Why does he do this?
Every so often?
Why does he do this?
I don't know.
Why does he do this? He's like the best hitter in baseball, and then he's the worst hitter in baseball. Like all in the same
for
season.
Months. He'll have the hottest month and then the worst month. So
you're saying Rafael Devers is more like Marcus Semien than you want to admit.
It could be. At home this year, he is a little bit better. 283 average versus a 200 average on the road, but 8 homers on the road to 5 at home this year. So you figure that one out. Bregman, as I mentioned, is on fire. $4,800. Chapman sucks right now, but he has got Tehran matchup. So if you're not a believer, can certainly go there. But for me, if we're spending up, it's Bregman, and then I go to Nick Senzel at $4,300. So he's hitting 7th, so he kind of fits a stack if you play the middle of the lineup, not necessarily the top of the lineup, but another guy that against left-handed pitching this season, just doing a lot of damage here, and has some power in his bat as well. 463, 659, 1159 are his slashes against left-handed pitching on the season.
So I think another question about Manoah. Ryan, you must have just tuned in because we just went on a tangent about. No, I think he's still going to be a gas can, but that's kind of what we've been alluding to all season. Well, John has. I tried to.
Nothing suggested he was ever going to be good.
No,
None of his numbers. You were just like, he can't just be bad all of a sudden, can he? And I was like,
and
no, everything is saying he is, and then he has been nothing but bad except for one start. Right. One start he was good in. So, but as I just said, like, it's not a good Milwaukee lineup, but he has been so bad that it doesn't have to be. You could just give up a bunch of runs to William Contreras and Owen Miller tonight, and the game's over. So, game blouses, so like
game blouses, right. I agree on the Bregman front because Verland's been so bad against right-handed bats, and Bregman, again, he's been good, undeniably, kind of just lately, 5-6 game hit streak with 3 multi-hit games over his last 5, including a home run yesterday, some power from Bregman. I still think Devers is in play. Luke Weaver, 188 ISO to lefties. I wish there was more righties we could use for Boston tonight because righties have really been the thorn in Luke Weaver's side this year. There's not, unless you want to play Rob Refsnyder, of course, and Justin Turner, and both guys have been better against left-handed pitching. So I like Devers. I like Bregman. Senzel's fine if you're playing the Reds for sure. But I just kind of like gravitate back to the Brewers, John. Like Owen Miller, you could play here at third, and Brian Anderson, you could play here at third. And Brian Anderson, once again, hitting well. He's kind of been another guy that's just been like this. There's been a roller coaster with Brian Anderson all year long, but Manoah doesn't discriminate. 350 WOBA allowed to righties, 172 ISO. Brian Anderson, 196 ISO off righties, 337 WOBA. All of his damage against right-handed pitching. So I like Brian Anderson hitting in the middle of that Brewers lineup. I like the entire top half of the Brewers lineup. You could play 3 of them here at third base. Obviously, your Toro is last in terms of ranking. But you could play all 3 of them if you want.
He's calling him a Noah slander. Is he a Blue Jays fan? Is he?
I don't know. Must be
holding a lot of Manoah rookie cards here.
There is some investment in Alek Manoah on Ryan's behalf that we need to get to the bottom of.
It's not slander, man. Look at his stats. They're just absolute.
Just bad. I know.
You said gas can. Nothing here is profiling as a good pitcher. Can he give us this tonight? This is your best case scenario. 5 2/3, 6 hits, 2 earned, 5 Ks, and he gets the win tonight, right? So he gets 19 fantasy points. This
at 6.9K, nice.
Right. I think this is the best case scenario for him.
With a win.
So if you think,
which seems likely, the win
seems likely. The Milwaukee's hit righties fairly well.
Correct. They have.
So, I mean, again, if it's such a small slate, I'm not going to. There's really no unplayable play except for like Dinelson Lamet tonight, probably. Right? Like
probably.
He's probably like the only unplayable play. Probably. So sure, if you're making a bunch of lineups tonight and you need the money savings, I mean, listen, if you're down at the value tier.
So you want to know Manoah's ownership?
Yeah.
17%.
Because
which is the sixth highest rostered pitcher of the night.
Because it's like if you're down here looking for value and you're just like, who honestly has a GPP winning potential?
Clark Schmidt, that's 7,700, probably. Maybe. Just because he has the best strikeout upside of anyone down here.
Sure.
He has multiple 8 strikeout games.
Yes, this year, 100%. Manoah, obviously, last year, a decent strikeout guy. But, Tommy Henry's not that guy. You're hoping Tommy Henry gets you 15 fantasy points as his win, right?
Right.
That's what you're hoping for. So, sure, if you're digging down and you're like, geez, I need something here with some upside, Blue Jays are favorite to win, as you mentioned, and if Manoah can just do what he did against Baltimore and not what he did against Tampa Bay and New York and Philadelphia, Boston even wasn't all. I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, Seattle probably would have been better if they could win that game. The 3-2 and get the W. So, sure. Play.
Wow, listen to all that conviction,
Play Alek
Ryan.
Manoah tonight.
Yeah. Listen
Because
to all that
what else
conviction.
are you gonna do on a 6-game slate where you have to pitch 2 guys, right? Like,
just not play them. If especially like in tournaments, right?
Yeah.
If we're not talking about cash games, if you're playing tournaments, the Brewers are very cheap. The Diamondbacks outside of Corbin Carroll are very cheap. We'll get to our favorite player in the outfield like very soon. Like the only team that are expensive are Houston and the Blue Jays,
and the Red Sox,
and the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays are, probably going to be the highest owned. Those actually probably Toronto and Boston are the highest owned plays of the slate. Like you can spend up, and not worry about this. But like even the spend up options are kind of scary. So like,
well, that's what it's like. Aaron Nola, like there's Hunter Brown even is a little wary. Maybe that's just because we're Minnesota Twins fans, but Anyways, so third base. If you're looking for a reason to play Alek Manoah tonight, I just gave you some hope. Maybe he doesn't have to be aces. He just has to not be the worst to help go around here. Shortstop here. Bichette's your top guy at 5K. I'm in 100%, willing to pay. Turner against righty again. Carrasco against righties has been abysmal. If there was ever a time for Turner to give us something, maybe this is the spot. But after that, again, I've told you I like Cincinnati tonight, so like I've plugged a lot of McLean and I've played a lot of Dubon, and I've kind of just moved on from shortstop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely interested in paying for Bichette in current form. If you can get there, he's only 5K. He's been hovering around this price for like the entire season and more expensive. I mean, we've seen him at 6K for half the season. So I like Bichette when he's going like this, when the power is there. So I'm going to go Bichette as my top spend. And then I'm with you. McLean for sure. Guy continues to just rake. I don't understand why he's not over 4K yet. Like, we've been doing this now for 13 games where he was min salary for 2 slates and like then he was 3K. Like that was a nice increase.
Hits on all the 2 games that he's played this year. So
yeah, and there's power, there's some speed. Like let's raise the price. Dubon, love that 3,300 leading off. Kevin Newman, as you mentioned. Honestly, you can probably even go Jose Barrero. Yeah. That home run that he hit was off a lefty, and it was a tank job last night. He's actually kind of been good too. He is one of those all or nothing guys. He is a very high strikeout rate guy. He has a lot of power. Now he has been severely better against righties this year. Significantly better against righties. So like maybe we don't go Barrero. Just as I dig further into the numbers right now, but if you wanted a punt, 2,200, he's had multiple good fantasy games over his last 3. So,
yep, I'm there for you. All right, let's get to outfield here. As we mentioned, we'll go build some lineups for everybody here as well. A lot of top options in the outfield. Aaron Judge has now homered 4 times in 3 games. Obviously, best player in the league, 18 home runs.
With an IL stint. With an IL stint.
Jordan, again, tons of power potential here as well.
Yep.
Varland at 6K. You're telling everybody that at some point Julio Rodriguez would probably turn it around. A lot of peripheral numbers that you kept on pointing out stream after stream after stream suggested a turnaround coming. 0 for 5 last night. Boo. But before that, he was on fire. So maybe he gets it going against Clark Schmidt here tonight. But I mean, I don't really want to pay for Harper or Yoshida at their price point. So it's those top 3 for me. Then Corbin Carroll at $5,200.
Yeah, it's the top 3 for sure. I would say it's Judge and Jordan like ahead of Julio for me. Just because Clark Schmidt's been so good against righties. Not that Rodriguez can't have a good game. It's just the lefties are really the only ones giving Clark Schmidt any fits. But yeah, it's Corbin Carroll is my favorite play of the entire slate. I mean, the guy had 2 stolen bases and a home run yesterday, just to give you like a peek behind. He just keeps going. He has 9 home runs and 16 stolen bases this year, almost hitting 300, almost has a 900 OPS. Like, the guy does literally everything. He's hitting in the middle of the lineup once again. 280 ISO, 394 WOBA against righties. Cover the playbook for a reason. He's my favorite play. Like, if you can't get to Judge or Jordan, don't feel bad about it if Corbin Carroll's your most expensive outfielder, because he could outscore everyone tonight, and it would not surprise me one bit.
Yep, I agree 1,000%. He's been everything that was basically promised. Power, speed. If you took him in your fantasy leagues, you're not upset. This guy right here. And you as well. Yeah, you as well. And he's been worth every penny in DFS, and we're sad that he's over 5K. Forever they kept on having him priced for free.
Low threes. We were like, holy cow, this is outrageous.
You. I have another. Jared Kelenic, 49. George Springer, 48. 2 guys I'm locking in to lineups here tonight for myself as well. And then we go to the mid-tier, man. Like, what's your take?
So I love the 2 guys you just mentioned. I love Lourdes Gurriel, 4,400. He has hit righties extremely well this year. He's just been good all year long. Whit Merrifield, as you mentioned, I can get to Grichuk, 39. And then, like, under 4K, I love Dalton Varsho hitting 4th. I know this has not been a great Dalton Varsho season, but signs of life last 3 games, including a home run, has a hit in all 3 of them. Love him hitting 4th. If you look at the Julio Teheran splits throughout his career, he has been way worse against lefties, which unfortunately the Blue Jays don't have a lot of lefties. Right. But Dalton Varsho is one of them, hitting 4th. I like Jarren Duran if you're playing Boston. He would be one guy that I would include in that Boston stack. Chas McCormick is, a guy that has now homered in 2 straight games, and we've kind of talked about it a bunch tonight. Houston is kind of really interesting. Like, Varland's been good.
Right.
But there's some signs to, like, maybe point that he's not going to be this good. But righties have given him fits. 344 WOBA, 278 ISO allowed to right-handed bats. Chas McCormick, 177 ISO, pretty good against righties. Home runs in 2 straight, as I mentioned. In the lineup tonight, hitting 7th. Pavin Smith leading off, as I figured. But Jake McCarthy if he's going to get on base, which is all he did last year and led him to hitting 3rd for the last, 2 months of the year for Arizona, because he was just too good to, not hit 3rd.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, if he's just going to steal every time he's on base, he is one of the most lock and load plays of the slate.
And it doesn't feel like Dinelson Lamet is a guy that's going to keep him off.
No.
So, he's got a little power as well. Only the 1 home run obviously on the year. Spent a lot of time in the minors, but back up, he raked at AAA. Now PCL, people do that. They go there and they just hit. But he's come up and it's carried over. And we don't know the official lineup here. But would it stun you if he's
hitting 8th? We got a lineup. Yep, it's
big sad.
Yeah, still hitting 8th. Sorry,
wrap around. We can wrap it around.
Listen. He's in every lineup I'm making. I told you, Arizona's been my favorite stack from the start of this slate. Their lineup has done nothing to suggest that. Smith, Marte, Carroll, exactly the 3 that kind of expected. And then Walker, Gurriel, Rojas, Moreno, McCarthy, Perdomo. There's a lot of lefties in that lineup, and they're all pretty good, including McCarthy if he's going to continue to hit this well. So all systems go for Jake McCarthy tonight at $3,000.
Yeah, we didn't even mention Perdomo, but obviously got to be considered.
For sure
in play, given kind of what he could be. He's got a 210 ISO on the year, so a lot of
242 against right-handed pitching, even better than it's been against just every split.
$3,600 for him too, hitting a little McCarthy, Perdomo 8-9.
Dude, I am telling you, I'm just playing the 3 max. I'm going to win money or lose money because I'm going to differentiate my stack number 2 in every lineup, but every lineup includes a variation of Arizona tonight.
Sure.
It is what it is.
Fair enough. All right. What other outfielders do you like today?
Under 3K.
Fairchild for me stood out at hitting 6 to $2,300.
Yeah. Stuart Fairchild. the Dennis Rodman or the Scottie Pippen to Michael Jordan, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa to Aaron Judge. You laugh, but listen, the dude's been really good. They hit him fifth last night. I don't know. He's $2,300. If he's gonna hit fifth again or anywhere near that type of in the lineup, I'm okay getting there. It's not like a situation where I'm like, I must play Isaiah or Kiner-Falefa, but I'm also not like totally against the idea. There's no official lineup out for the Yankees right now, so still kind of awaiting that. But I would play IKF if he's hitting in the midst of that lineup. You mentioned Kevin Biggio. He's in play.
What are we doing, Willie Castro?
Dude, I'm pissed he wasn't in the lineup yesterday, by the way, because he had been crushing baseballs. I mean, yeah, if you want to punt Willie Castro, you're not playing Hunter Brown. That's fine. Like, we talked about it. Like, there's a lot of
Royce Lewis in the lineup tonight, by the way.
So. Or Buxton.
Yeah.
Or Byron Buxton.
But that just makes like the Hunter Brown.
I mean,
it's more in theory, maybe should be a little bit more appealing.
Looking through some lineups, yeah, Edward Julian, Donovan Solano, Kirilloff, Farmer is the top 4 for the Minnesota lineup. Which I like Julian and I like Kirilloff, but when your lineup is Donovan Solano hitting second and Kyle Farmer hitting 4th in the year 2023, like. There's obviously questions to be had, I'd say. Chase Field will open roof, aka the ball is going to start to fly in Chase Field tonight for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Honestly, like, there's no way I play Tommy Henry if the roof is open. There's no way. There's just no way.
I hear you. All right, let's build a lineup. We got a couple of minutes to go here. Actually, before we do that, let's give a couple of predictions here for tonight. James, give me your home run call.
Corbin Carroll.
Right. I'm going to go with Spencer Steer as our thing. And I guess we're you've already kind of let it out there, but give me your must-play stack for tonight. Feels pretty obvious, but why don't you go ahead and give us your 3, though. Give us the 3 that you're playing.
Okay.
Not the stacks, the players in the stack.
Okay. I would say Corbin Carroll, Jake McCarthy. I know those two things don't correlate because McCarthy's hitting 8th, but I think it's too good of a value with current form. And Pavin Smith leading off. That would be my top 3.
Pavin Smith leading off. Corbin Carroll hitting 4th tonight.
Is he 4th? Is he hitting 4th?
4th? Did I read that wrong?
No, I think it's 3rd. I think he's hitting 3rd.
Hitting third. Corbin Carroll hitting 3rd. Pavin Smith. So you could still get there, though, with the wraparound there.
Right. It's not a
There's a path for McCarthy to score on a Carroll hit still. So
and Smith on a home run.
Yeah, hopefully on a home run. Right, home run call. For me tonight, I'm going to go with the middle of the Reds lineup here. I'm going to go Spencer Steer, Stuart Fairchild, and Nick Senzel is where I'm going to go. So we're going with the 4, 6, 7 of the Reds here. I like them all, but that's kind of the spot I'm going to go for my red stack as my must play here of the night. So that said, let's build a couple of lineups here. Gonna go ahead and just plug in Corbin Carroll and McCarthy because I agree with you. Love them both. Big McCarthy. I want to play Fairchild. I don't know.
I'm okay with playing. Listen, I wrote James Paxton up in the playbook. You and I also discussed that pretty much every pitcher not named Hunter Brown tonight is a liability. Like, this is like, who did Ryan Reynolds play in Remember the Titans when they were like, you're a liability.
It wasn't Ryan Reynolds. It was Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling. Yeah. He was the liability. Like, that's put his face on every pitcher tonight outside of Hunter Brown. That's what it feels like tonight.
Okay. Well, I got our 2 starting pitchers tonight: Hunter Brown, Alek Manoah.
Oh no! No! What are we doing? What are we doing?
No, I'm just kidding. We'll figure it out. Do you want to go Bichette or McLean?
Bichette or McLean? So if we have the money, I'd like to get to Bichette, and if we don't, by the time we build, like, we could just let's build with Bichette, and if we need to save the salary, we'll just play McLean. Okay. Also, did you want Spencer Steer or Fairchild? You wanted Fairchild?
I used Fairchild. I was going to use Steer at first.
Okay. Just making sure. Making sure I'm not going crazy.
No. So I got Steer at first, Fairchild, and I had Senzel at third. Okay. I guess we can have to decide then on, because you liked Pavin. Would you rather Steer or Pavin Smith tonight?
I'm perfectly fine not playing Pavin Smith if we're going, because if we wanted to do this kind of this hybrid Reds Arizona stack, we could play Ketel Marte at second. I don't even know if I'd want to do that, because you have like Owen Miller at 3,100 probably, or Dubois, right?
I got a lineup there with $8,700 left, which doesn't do anything for us. Takes us right to Paxton, or Nola, but you like Clark Schmidt actually, right? So
yeah, I do like Clark Schmidt.
$1,000 to play with. Can we upgrade there? William Contreras.
Yeah, I like the Brewers. That, like, if I were my one contrarian stack tonight would be Milwaukee. That would be the contrarian stack I'd play. They're about like the 7th highest rostered team on the night.
Right.
And we've talked extensively tonight about Alek Manoah and his struggles, and just like, I know the Blue Jays bullpen is pretty good. So like, obviously after Manoah leaves the game, you have to face a pretty tough task. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to pull up the Blue Jays bullpen ERA to make sure.
But this is the lineup we currently have coordinated here: Hunter Brown, Clark Schmidt, William Contreras is a one-off at catcher, Spencer Steele, Ketel Marte, Nick Senzel, Bo Bichette as a one-off here at shortstop for Toronto, Corbin Carroll, Jake McCarthy, Spencer Fairchild in the outfield.
I like that.
Right?
I like that.
Not a bad little lineup here.
No, that's a good lineup. So, I like that lineup a lot.
Guys, if you're not yet a member of the Fantasy Alarm family, you can join today using promo code NFL50 as it shows on the bottom, or MLB50. Both of them work right now. You get 50% off the first 6 months. That's $19.98 a month for the first 6 months there. Get access to our premium Discord channel, all of our DFS content, not just for the MLB, but for all sports as well. NFL season's coming along. This deal includes the first couple months of the NFL season, so you get that on a discount here. And we have a 7-day free trial included with everything now as well. So you go sign up at fantasyalarm.com/allpro, promo code NFL50, MLB50, whichever one you want there, and you get activated our 7-day free trial. Make sure you download the free Better Sports Network app in your iTunes or Google Play Store. Can take part in BetterCast, Pub Trivia going on there as well by the team there. Giving out some pretty cool prizes. So a lot of cool things going on there at Better Sports Network. So make sure you download their free Better Sports Network app in your iTunes and Google Play Store, and join us here over at Fantasy Alarm. James, a little bit of a weird slate tomorrow, so we won't be live, but we will have a full podcast out in the morning for everybody to watch the slate breakdown. We're going to do all-day breakdown for everybody there. And James and I will be back live on Friday. Any final words for those tuning in?
Go Diamondbacks, go.
I like it. Go Diamondbacks, go. I got the Reds here, and I'll be at Fenway cheering on the Reds.
Listen, are you going to be wearing a Red Sox shirt while doing so?
I won't be. I'm wearing no gear, Fantasy Alarm hat only. I'll be at Fenway, though, secretly cheering on the Reds. That wraps